What up, what up, what up, what up? You're in tune to the squad. It's Icewater, it's Puma, and we are sponsored by Rayon Cognac. Join the movement. Contact us at www.rayoncognac.com for more information on some great cognac. We're going to be talking about March Madness, both the men's and the women's game. We're also going to be talking about some NBA news. The playoffs are getting ready to start. We're also going to talk about a big loss in baseball, Dave Lopes. He passed away today. We were just finding that out. And then we'll give you our last second shots. We might throw some more things in there too. But I was watching March Madness. And first of all, congratulations to the Michigan Wolverines winning the national championship, first time since 1989. And a powerful team. They've been playing strong all year. UConn gave them everything they could give them. But here's the shade I'm going to give. And I thought about this. I thought about how I was going to present this, but I've been saying it about sports and I've been saying it about this tournament. This was the worst officiating tournament that I ever saw in my entire life because it was so one-sided, one team, and the other team not getting the calls. Before I get into that, let me congratulate also Dred and Yinzamama picking Michigan, but Dred edges out Yinzamama 131 to 126. So I spoke to Dred. He has two in a row. Now he won the Super Bowl squares. Now he won March Madness. So he's waiting for the next challenge that we have with the squad. So he's eager. He's like, hey, you gonna do the World Cup? You gonna do this? You gonna do this? And I'm like, let's talk about it. We do NFL and March Madness. But Yinzamama, first time out. Congrats. Sent them both their winnings, the runner-up and the since they tied, and Dred won the tiebreaker. I had to break off a little bit to Yinzamama for the first time, getting that high and beating all the guys on the list. So
You such
had to
a
do it. Had to do it. I know. I'm a softie. But anyway, going back to March Madness, you could just see during the game the way it was being called and folks coming over the back, Michigan players fouling, but it'd be called on UConn players. I'm like, okay, you can have the NBA, you can have the NFL if you want to fix games, but please leave March Madness alone. Your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it was disheartening. I wanted UConn to win. I had UConn in the Final Four. I had a few other reasons why I wanted UConn to win. But I told you, I mean, I think, and not saying I said I told you so, but I did mention earlier how good Michigan was. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I told you about the coach. I told you the talent that they had, and when you watch them, they're big, they're explosive, they play well, they play with a lot of intensity. So I wasn't surprised that they won, right? I knew it would take a special effort and a special team to beat them because they're so big and athletic. And when you look at Lennonberg, MVP or what have you, when he plays well, they're very difficult. But the thing ironic about this is both teams struggled to score the ball,
Yeah.
except for Cadro, the point guard from Michigan. It was really rough. And even though the referees that all that went down, and it was almost like UConn was, in my opinion, was going up against up a hill they never could ever climb. Kudos to Coach Hurley for keeping them on point. He coming to a point where they made it competitive because even the way that Michigan played and struggled, most times they would have blown the other team out.
Yeah.
And that showed you the presence of UConn, and a lot of things just happened. You can point to a lot of things. I think the big center Reed, who's a former player at Michigan, was a transfer. I think they got in his head. He was so worried about trying to be a force against his old team that it cost him because he's like 4-12 from the field. And nobody was really on, but certain guys, like for instance with Mullins, I think Mullins, the guy who hit the winning shot, after Mullins hit that shot to advance them versus Duke, it's almost like he lost his mind. He tried to be a hero. He shot 4-17 from the field in that game, and it's like, play your game. And I think that kind of, they were a little sporadic. And then, of course, the early foul trouble with the guard. didn't do well, but they kept fighting though. They kept fighting. You think about it. They shot 31% from the field. They shot 27% from three-pointer.
Yeah, which is really
And
low for them.
yeah, and Michigan was 2 of 15 from three-point land, 13%.
13% from 3 point line and only 38% from the field. So,
Yeah.
and they only had 2 points in as far as fast break points, and that's their game. That's their game. And I have to give credit not only to May, Coach May, but also to Coach Hurley, who how he handled it after the game, unlike his predecessor. I mean, not predecessor, but coaching mate in UConn. He handled it during because they were trying to bait him into talking about the referee. Everybody saw it. Everybody saw it, and he's like, "Listen, it was a good crew. It was a good crew. I believe in my guys. I'm proud of these guys. They played their hearts out, and he did it with some class. He didn't blame the refs. He saw the example and what happened. Gino got torched for what he did on Sunday. He got torched. I mean, he did Saturday or Friday. I'm sorry. He got torched, and it was like a whining little brat. But we'll get to that in a few. But yeah, I thought that UConn played as hard as they could. Being, you could see how much bigger Michigan was, but they weren't backing down, and they hadn't backed down to anybody all year. And Michigan was that team that we thought they were when they came into the season. They were the team to beat, and they had some stumbles along the way, but I have to give them credit. They did what they were supposed to do. They're the champs right now. It will be very interesting to see how the transfer portal affects everybody in the Final Four, and you can all already see guys maneuvering either going to the NBA or going to the transfer portal. When we talk about the women's game, I know the Tennessee coach had no team members left. All the players left and went to the transfer portal. That may be saying something about the coach or the program, where people are just, they're bailing out on teams if they're not happy. Any other thoughts on UConn and Michigan?
The other thing too is why I think the reason why I chose UConn in the Final Four in the first place, after I started to watch them in the second part of the season, they were so scrappy. They just refused to quit. And some of it might have been a little luck, but they just did not quit. You think about the fact that Landenberg had Borg had only 13 points.
Mm-hmm.
Mara had eight. He had 8 points. The new guys show up and they were so much bigger, they would have dominated them. But still, UConn was still hanging around. And if Cadre had not gotten hot, the point guard, then at that point, UConn was right there. One of the ugliest games we've seen with the refs did not help the situation either. But it was crazy. I just would like to see a cleaner game because I think that would have made for a better game, more excitement to watch. But they were banging, it was crazy. People falling all over the place. And I mean, after a while, everywhere you turned, players on both teams was throwing their hands up like, you
Yeah,
ain't gonna call that? You ain't
yeah,
gonna call that?
yeah. And I don't mind the calls, but make it even on both sides. Don't do it one sided because it makes it so obvious that there's something wrong. There's something wrong, and it looks more NBA ish than anything.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can have the NBA. You want to rig games in the NBA, NFL? Go ahead, go ahead. It's entertainment. You say sports entertainment in its professional ranks, but leave the college ranks alone. Leave them alone, and don't try to force one team over another team and kind of you know you know make the balance kind of unbalanced and all that stuff because you're going to ruin it. And I always felt, and I felt this way throughout the whole tournament. What happened to just putting the games on CBS and leaving the championship game on CBS instead of putting them all over the place where people had to try to find these games? Stop doing that. I mean, come on, just put the game on CBS so everybody can watch it, please. I know you're gonna say something about that too, because that bothered me on True, on TNT, on TBS, on whatever channel they could put it on, HBO Max. It's like, stop. It's a tradition, and you're messing it up. And this is one of the best sporting events in the world, and you're messing it up with doing all these. And I know I joked about Capital One. I'll keep the commercials. Just don't mess with don't mess with the game. Your thoughts, man?
When you talk about all those different networks, it's called greed, bro.
Yeah,
That's all it is. It's just greed. So you can put it in the people that really want to see the games are gonna find it, right? True TV, whatever source, whatever, True TBS, TNT, Disney, whatever. I mean, they're gonna find it. But it's a mess. And then certain days you get the game on the mainstream CBS network, whatever you're watching, but that just shows you they don't really care. When you had the national championship on a cable station, the national championship, I mean, think about it from that standpoint, they do not care. It's about the cash. If you want that many views or people to watch, they're telling you the same way they've been doing lately with college football
yeah,
championship. It's always on something crazy. At least ABC and ESPN sometimes split it on two different stations,
yeah,
right? There was no splitting on this college basketball thing, so it's I don't know, man. They try to make it work any way they can try to make dollars. They will.
yeah. And they're gonna wind up, pricing themselves out of it where nobody's really paying attention to it. I'm like, you got a good thing going. Try not to mess it up. Let's go to the women's championship. UCLA national champions, and I want to go back to the Final Four with South Carolina and UConn. South Carolina outcoached UConn and their coach. They bullied them, and Gino tried to blame it on the refs. He tried to blame it on anybody but the players. They were missing shots. They were missing open layups, and I think they thought this game was a formality, forgetting that you beat this team in the national championship game, and they weren't going to come back with venom to come get you and take you out after you won 38 in a row or 54 in a row, 38 this season. And so he got out coached. He got, it's like UConn didn't even want it at a certain point. There was one point at the end of the game, and I felt bad for the young lady, had an open layup for UConn and missed the open layup because maybe she had trauma from getting shots blocked and all this other stuff that happened during the game. She probably heard footsteps and couldn't complete the game. There was another sister who ripped her jersey. Now Gino thought that was the other team, and so he acted like a big baby, and he lost all credibility to me. Being one of the outstanding coaches in women's college sports, he was a bad example for his own players, for women's college basketball, and women's basketball in general. How he acted, and I remember a few years ago we talked about how a lot of women coaches were like, "Why are men coaching women's sports?" And he's a bad example of it, in my opinion. Your thoughts, man?
No, I agree with you from that standpoint. But I think for all year long, when we looked at the schedules earlier, UConn's been just rolling through everybody. You look at the tournament, first round, they beat UTSA 90-52. They beat Syracuse 98-45, 63-42 over North Carolina, and then they beat Notre Dame 70-52. But the difference here for me is you were undefeated. Gino came in and they were rolling. Two things. I think everybody knows, for the most part, Don Steady knows how to coach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And her players don't do anything else, they're gonna give raw effort. Maybe perhaps this may not have been her best team. And maybe that's what Gino was mad about. And then of course he complained. Gino complained about the referees and he complained about Don and the refs and stuff. I'm like, well, Don Steady has nothing to do with the referees. Talking about she was getting on the referees. I think what really happened to him is he thought this was one of his better teams,
Mm-hmm.
and they got exposed.
Yep,
They got exposed,
big
and
time.
it was physical. Now the refs could have made maybe more calls, so he could feel like it was even. But to go after Don Staley the way that he did and complain what he did is just really sad, because this is a guy that is all these championships. He always likes to brag how many Final Fours he wins to, and true for the most part, ever since Pat Summitt left, I mean passed away, may she rest in peace, that he became the face of women's basketball.
Exactly.
So you can do all that and scream about how great you are and everybody bowing down and you're getting all these five-star recruits, McDonald's All-Americans. But then again, when you love to win, but you don't know how to lose. So how can people look at you? This, as they said, that program been on fire for the last 40 years. Rebecca Lobo talked about that. And you're supposed to be at the center of it, but yet now you come back out of here and you showed your ass. I mean, what is that? I mean, why there's so many people that wish they could be in your place or at least win one title. But you get up here and you're trying to act like you are the highest thing going, and then you want to come back. And then after press seems like he was pressed, that now you got to establish. He had to establish some more credibility and try to come back and try to initiate or give up two apologies. They kind of almost fell on deaf ears. But then again, it's just like setting a better example. So I don't know. I mean, I just think that's what it was, and I think the reason why coaching goes a long way. And I will say this: the second point was I think Don Staley knew this was not her best team.
It wasn't, and I think she knew that too. But she's
Yeah,
such a great coach that
yeah,
she got all that she can get out of them. And then we go to the UCLA game, and
yeah,
they were just they were just too big for South Carolina. And it's almost like I was watching the game Sunday, and I was like, wow, it's like they blew their wad in that UConn game, and that was their championship.
yeah, yeah. But I think that's the point though. When you look at it though from that standpoint, Don Staley got all she could get off her players.
Yeah.
Did you play UCLA? UCLA is like, okay, this is different from us. When if you were to look at it, some people might say that they thought maybe UConn would could have easily beat UCLA.
Hmm.
Because of the factor that, and it might be because of the intimidation factor of the coach looking at Gino a certain kind of way, or the players being a little intimidated. But they were, as you said, they used their physicality and their size to beat UConn. I mean, not beat UConn, but to beat South Carolina. But Don Staley just took it in stride. Truthfully, I think as much as she wanted to win that title, she got what she wanted.
Yeah, I
Let's take it
feel
down,
that way
Gino.
too. Yeah, I feel that way too. It's like, as long as Gino don't get it, I'm good.
Yeah, she got what she wanted because what y'all did last year. Okay, yeah, we lost to the title, and I'm happy they did, but I got you though. I
Yeah.
got you. And I didn't think in the back they probably marking the notes saying, "Yeah, we got you."
Mike Malone takes the job with the North Carolina Tar Heels. I personally think this is a great move. I know I didn't talk too much about Hubert Davis. I think it was time, and a lot of things started to show up where the North Carolina faithful did not see any future with Hubert Davis. I do commend him for the job that he did do at Carolina, but here's a coach, Mike Malone, who won in the NBA, NBA champion, and this is new blood. This is not North Carolina, the blood of different coaches and players coming back. And I think this is a good thing for North Carolina. One of the things that really bothered me about Duke, who lost in their game, is that, I wanted to mention this. They got all these All Americans, or they always have the number one recruiting class since 2015, yet no rings, no championships. And it's like you can get every time. I'm used to hearing when Duke gets the number one recruiting class, I'm used to, oh, they're not going to do anything with it because those guys are going to be one and done and they're going to the NBA. And here we go again. And so Jay Will was on Facebook talking about how you should give Shire more grace, and he's done a wonderful job. But you're getting all the recruits, but you get out coached when you play tough teams, especially in the tournament. You get out coached, and so Duke once again is going to be falling behind in basketball because when I listen to Patino talk about, hey, I don't recruit, I go to the transfer portal because I don't have time to try to develop a freshman who's going to leave anyway. So I want players that are ready to go and they want to win and they're hungry and they're already developed and I can put them in my system and we can win. And Duke still is going the old route with recruiting freshmen, developing them, and maybe one of the Boozer brothers is going to go to the NBA because he's going to be a high draft pick. But it's like they're behind the eight ball again. It reminds me of when Krzyzewski was complaining about folks getting the one and done players like Kentucky and Calipari, and then wind up doing it after a while when they weren't getting any championships, but it didn't get them any championships either. So I think this is a good move for North Carolina. I think Mike Malone is very passionate. He reminds me of a Dan Hurley that's going to come in, get in your face, and demand the best of you. And one more thing I'm going to say in this, and I'm going to get off this. The Chicago Bull coach, what are you thinking trying to make North Carolina wait until Sunday when the season's over in the NBA to negotiate with you when the transfer portal is open and they need to get players on that team? The Bulls aren't going anywhere. And I don't know who's whispering in your ear, keeping you with the Chicago Bulls, but you just missed a big opportunity to make a big splash back in college basketball. Your thoughts?
Touche. The Malone hire at North Carolina, I can see why they did it. He is an NBA man, been an NBA guy for a while. He had a nice thing rolling out in Sacramento, and then he got booed and he ended up with the Denver job and won a title there before things kind of unraveled. I would say Malone is a player's coach, so I think this is going to be helpful for him. I do think, though, at some point they're going to need to have somebody, and maybe he can do it. I'm not sure. He's going to have somebody that's really familiar with the college game, today's college game, because to help with the NIL and doing things like that while he's coaching. Because I think he's a very personable guy. He can get people to play for him, but I think he's really going to have a top-notch staff if North Carolina is coming back to wants to be back to where it was, right? And he's very competitive. And the thing where you say about, of course, they wanted a North Carolina man and all this other stuff. Sometimes you can't find him.
Right.
I remember when Matt Doherty came back.
Oh,
Matt
that was
Doherty
bad. That was
he was
horrible.
supposed to be the guy because I mean you played with Jordan. He was supposed to be the guy, and hey, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes you just have to go with a guy of a good feel. Mike Malone wants to be there.
Mm-hmm.
They will have to work through the intangibles of the change from NBA to pro. But think about it just from the standpoint of these kids coming in, that you now go to play for a coach that knows what it takes to go to the league.
Yeah.
You already know that. He's shown you that. He's won on different levels. So he knows what it's like. He knows how to develop and get kids ready. So I think that's going to be helpful for them too. In regards to like you mentioned about transfer portal and Duke and things like that too. I know Rick Pitino has said he doesn't recruit freshmen and all that stuff. I still think you can win that way. I think it's a mix though, a mixture. Because
Yeah.
Duke lost, it's a mixture. Duke still did real well with the Boozers and with some other younger players. So I think it's a mixture. I don't think you still have to go out and get 28-year-olds. I think it's a mixture. I mean, it's nice if that's what you have to do. I guess Arkansas will be reloading, but I still think you can win with young players too. I just do. And granted, when you go overseas and everybody talks about Illinois, okay, Illinois made the, they made it to
Final
the
four.
eight,
Mm-hmm.
Final Four. Yeah, they made it, but still, everything that they talked about, they still can get over the hump. They still cannot get over the hump. So I guess it depends on which way you want to go. There's different paths and different roads to that next level, but you still have to have quality coaching. You still have to have, even if they're young. You gotta have quality coach. You gotta have transfers. You gotta have schools that really want to support you in a way and let the coaches do what they need to do to get you to that point. And I think that's what Michigan did. So, and I think Malone, one, he wants to be there. Two, he loves the history, the tradition of North Carolina. And three, I think it's something he can build upon.
Yeah, and his
I
daughter
think,
plays on the volleyball team also. So
yeah. So I mean, I think he's ecstatic to have a job.
yeah.
I'm not sure if he knew he would get it, but he's ecstatic, and I think he's gonna put some work in.
Yeah, because I know Michigan went through the transfer portal. The point guard came from North Carolina,
Yeah.
a few other players. So I do agree that it has to be a mix, but it seems like Duke just goes to recruiting freshmen and their players don't stay there long because there was another point guard, Roach, who used to play with Duke. And when there were some point guards that were coming in, Roach was like, I'm going to Baylor. If you want to entertain this other point guard, I'm going somewhere else. And so I can see where Rick Pitino is like, hey, I'm not just going to recruit freshmen. I want to get some players who fit in my style, and it's less time, it's less headache, and I want to develop them, and so they can stay. But the point guard at Michigan, I guess they were saying that when he left North Carolina, you're going to be asked, but he worked hard. He got with a mixture of guys who they're selfless, and they won a national championship. So he was developed at North Carolina. He was developed,
Yeah.
and he got with Coach May and further development and built a champion. So I see where the game is now, and I would love it to go back to you get freshmen, they stay at least 3 years, 4 years tops, and then they can move on. But that ain't the game that we have now in college basketball.
I agree with that to a point though, because look, we still had AJ from BYU that was a hell of a freshman,
Yeah.
right? You had Flemings that was at Houston was a hell of a freshman, right? You had what was it? Is Dickinson or was he a freshman from Kansas?
I believe I know who you're talking about. I think he was, but
Yeah.
none of them, they got to the tournament, but didn't last long. So those players might be going to the NBA, and now you got to bring in another freshman to replace that freshman or another player from NIL to replace them to kind of stay afloat for the next year.
No, I agree with that. I'm just say this: when you talk about, I know you kind of a more of a rah Rick Pitino guy, but Rick Pitino is he either love him or you hate him. He gets these guys to come in there, and if they're tough enough to hang around and play for him, great. If not, them same dudes in that second year be like, I ain't staying here. He too hard. But you know coming in the door what you're getting. So I think it's a combination. And I think once Rick Pitino wins with them 25-year-olds, kind of like they did in Indiana football, then you start to say, I'm just saying. But
Yeah.
then we'll go, yeah, Rick, you're right, spot on. But that's okay. You do what you got to do. But regardless, you fell short.
Let's call them
It's just,
graduate students.
okay, whatever you want to call them, grown men. According to my brother, they grown men. But however, I mean, it's just what it is. But I'm just saying, they still fell short. They did not make it. And until you get to that level, it's just different philosophies. I don't think one's one way or the other. I think there's still some freshmen out there that can play. They just, like you said, they're probably not going to stay because now you look at Houston, if Flemings was to come back, I think CNAC might be back. There's a lot of other things too. But then on the flip side, when you say you need to go in the portal, even though Michigan went and got Landenborg, right? They got
Mhm.
him. They got Mara initially from UCLA, right? Who was the center of UCLA. They brought the transfer from Ohio State. That was a big contributor with dunks and everything and hustling, and the point guard. So they got that too. But then when you bring it back even more after what they did in the tournament, they got they signed one of the top freshmen to come play at Michigan, a 5-star guy.
Right.
So it's up and down. It's up and down.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the NBA. And there's about 3 games left. I think the season is going to be ending, I think, on Sunday. And I think everybody's going to kind of hold on to where they're at right now. You have the Pistons, who are probably going to take the Eastern Conference. They're 3 games ahead of the Celtics, and the Celtics are 3 games ahead of the Knicks, followed by Cleveland at number 4, Atlanta. I never thought that Atlanta would get that high, but they really pulled it together towards the end of the season, 7-3 in the last 10. Toronto's been kind of hiding in the cut, 5-5 in the last 10, followed by the 76ers at number 7 and the Magic number 8. Hornets at number 9. They're going to be in that play-in, and I don't think anybody wants to wants to see them. But that should be fun. I'm kind of turned off with the NBA, with traveling and all that. Me and Drake were talking about that a couple of days ago. And so, but I will watch the Charlotte Hornets because they're must see TV. In the Western Conference, you have the Thunder, who are up 3 games up on the Spurs. That's not going to change unless the Thunder just kind of mails it in the last 3 games. You have the Nuggets at number 3. Now, the Lakers fell to number 4. They were at number 3, and I think the Rockets were at number 6. But the Rockets moved up to number 5, and the Lakers moved down to number 4, which that's not going to change too much. Lakers, I don't think, wanted to see the Rockets, and 2 of the Lakers players got hurt. And so there's some Laker faithful saying, hey, LeBron, if you want to be like Kobe, you got to make it happen now. And I don't think he's going to make it happen at 41. I'm just saying. He's not going to happen. And your boy was playing point guard yesterday. Timmy. Timmy was playing remember from Gonzaga? He was playing point guard yesterday for the Lakers. They're not going to make it. Okay. At number 6, the Timberwolves. Number 7, the Suns. And number 8, the Clippers. The Blazers. We've been talking about the Blazers for the last couple of weeks. They got a pretty solid team. They're in that 9th position, and they're 7-3 in the last 10. what's your eye test on the NBA, and what are you looking for to see in this first round? It's gonna be a doozy.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things going on. The fact that Charlotte made it or is going to make it, I'm ecstatic about
Unbelievable.
that.
Unbelievable.
I think they're like a half game out behind Orlando,
Yeah.
right? Which means they would end up playing Philadelphia. I would like to see them get out that hole and play Philadelphia instead of Miami, because I think they would make that move and then they would end up probably playing Boston. But however, it don't matter. Just right that they're in is going to build chemistry and camaraderie with that team. I think Charlotte can be better unless the front office loses their mind and off season things they want to do, which they could do. But I don't know. Overall, I like that. But also too, you mentioned if we're gonna let's stay with the East. If we were to do right now, 4 and 5 would be Cleveland. No, Cleveland and Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think that would be a nice little matchup. 3 and 6 is Toronto and the Knicks.
Mhm.
So Knicks don't get too comfortable because Toronto has some talent from that standpoint. We need to see what the Pistons are gonna do. Are the Pistons for real? I mean, that's I like them a lot. I like Duran. Duran's a monster at center, but can they hold up when it comes to the postseason? So that's what I want to see from that standpoint. Go ahead.
Fun fact: the last time that Michigan won the national championship, guess who won the NBA championship?
Who the Knicks?
The Pistons.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that. But they still got to show me.
Yeah.
They got to show me. You look over to the West, though, as you mentioned, the Lakers are at 4, and they'll probably end up playing Houston. And without Luca, without the old boy Reeves,
Reeves. Yeah.
Kevin Durant is going to show up. He's going to show up and show out. That would mean you would have Denver versus Minnesota. Now that's going to be a hell of a first round. Denver and Minnesota, because I still like Denver. What can you say about Anthony Edwards? He's really tough from that standpoint. Clippers going to make it at 8. That's crazy to me. And even more crazy, the fact that Phoenix is at 7.
Yeah. And the Warriors are at number 10. So that,
Yeah, so you would have uh, f- Portland versus Golden State, and then you go from there. And Phoenix, whoever wins between the Clippers will probably win that game over Phoenix, and then the loser of that, the winner of that will uh, play play Phoenix. So there's a lot of stuff. I think there could be a little spoiler alert here, but for as much as everybody wants to say San Antonio is ready, they're gonna have to earn it. I still think they're young in a lot of senses. I love Wemby. Wemby has shown me that he is an MVP candidate. I wanted to see more from him. He showed it to me. But again, this also comes down to teams. If you look back in NBA history, no one man has been able to dominate and just take over. You could say Jordan, but the Chicago Bulls front office carefully crafted a group of people, veterans, to surround Jordan so he could do what he did, right? And I think San Antonio's going to have to do the same thing. You just have to realize if that was the case, if one man could do it by himself, Will Chamberlain probably would have had at least 10 titles. Because anybody that can average 50 points in one season, he was amazing at times. At times he was amazing, but it's always comes back to the team effect. So we'll see. And last but not least on this NBA thing for me, I'll just say this. We don't know whether or not what OKC is going to do. Are they going to come back strong? They're still in first place right now. But I'm talking about when you get to the postseason. Are they hungry enough to come back and try to win it again? I'm not sure. You can say, well, this team looks better now. This team looks better. I'm gonna say one thing to you. The Tom Brady rule. If you don't want it, they'll take it. That's all I'm gonna tell you. If you come in here half stepping and you don't want it, they'll take it.
yeah. Kirk Cousins. Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about that another point. That I want him to be my agent, Kirk Cousins' agent. I want him to give me my agent because he's gonna give me money. All right. What's on our mind today is, and we're going back to our childhood on this one. Um, Dave Lopes passed away. He was a Dodger great, played on several teams, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Oakland A's, the Chicago Cubs, and the Houston Astros. He was born in East Providence, Rhode Island. He has I know I'm a little sentimental because the Dodgers were that team for me, and also the Yankees. And watching Davy Lopes and winning in 1981, he's a four-time All-Star, two-time World Champion, a Golden Glove winner, and he won the. He was a stolen base leader in the National League for 2 years in '75 and '76. He was one of those quiet giants in the locker room in the Dodgers, and Tommy Lasorda had to kind of push him to take more of an assertive role as leadership, and he did. And he was one of them little guys that you rooted for. He's about 5'9", and I saw him coach, and he managed the Brewers, and saw him coach various teams over the years. And he died of complications to Parkinson's disease. He was diagnosed, I believe, with prostate cancer in 2008, but just a great, great player. And every time I look at him and look at old tapes and think about him, I think about my childhood and how great baseball was at that particular time. And he had, even though doesn't have the Hall of Fame numbers, but to me, in my heart, he's a Hall of Famer, Ice, because he really, really, really played the game to his fullest capacity and gave you an excitement to be able to watch the games. And we were talking offline about all the different teams and all the different players. And Davey Lopes was in the mix with that, with those great Dodger teams.
No doubt, no doubt. May he rest in peace. The one thing I think is missing with baseball now, and then here we come with this old fogey concept as old
Still
men.
with it. Still with it.
Yeah, but back then you knew who played baseball. You knew who these guys were, and they were. Davy Lopes was an exceptional talent, right? As far as athletic is concerned, he could hit the ball, he could steal a base. You could put him in right field. You could also, when they switched him over to the infield, he was just that kind of a guy. He was more or less more of a utility guy. He could do a lot of special things. But with that being said, he played on some great Dodger teams.
Mm-hmm.
Think about 1970s. The Dodgers were loaded talent-wise for a long time in the 70s, right? With Walter Austin and all that, as far as the before Tommy Lasorda got there. And they had some great teams. But they didn't win their first modern day championship until 1981. There were teams like the Oakland A's, the Cincinnati Reds, Boston Red Sox, of course, the Yankees. You go around like that too. But as far as talent is concerned, they were loaded. Dodgers had pitchers like Don Sutton. You had the great Al Downing, Mike Marshall, right? Andy Messersmith, one of the guys who ended up getting one of the big contracts because of Kurt Flood, right? Steve Garvey, Steve Yeager, backup catcher Joe Ferguson, Rick Monday, Reggie Smith, Ron Say. Dodgers were loaded. But with that being said, Davy Lopes was a key and instrumental part of that team. Because you think about it, they were loaded. Every time you see them come out there, you go, you don't want to play the Dodgers, but not to win a championship until 81. It was some ball playing in there.
Yeah.
Oakland was low. Oakland was kicking booty. So my point of it is, we don't understand. That's the problem with now because you're not in the conversation of a GOAT at a position or anything like that. Too, we fail now to realize great effort. And when you see great baseball or great whatever you're watching in front of you, just because you don't win or your team doesn't win doesn't mean that they're not good, damn good, and maybe great. Because you get so caught up in who won, and whatever. But the talent is amazing, especially back then. It was like, damn, the Dodgers didn't. You mean tell me the Dodgers didn't win since until 81? Go back and look at the pro baseball reference. You're gonna see Hall of Famers and guys like that too. It was hard. It was a hard put that work in, but that does not take away from great players like Davy Lopes, who were amazing. And what most important about guys like Davy Lopes, from that to Ozzie Smiths of the world or whatever, maybe how not so much household names, even Ricky Henderson. These dudes, when you watched them, you saw greatness individually along with being on a great team. So when the ball you get back him on the other side and the shortstop had to turn around and catch it, and he put his hand behind him and he finally kissed the ball and still maybe flip the ball back over the first for the play. Man, man, fundamentals were amazing. You just want to watch somebody like that play, right? Ball hit the second base, ball hit the shortstop, whatever position David Lopes was playing. You wanted to see him just field the ball and show you magic. That's what baseball was back in the day. So may he rest in peace. And even though he wasn't on my favorite team, damn, he was a good one. And he made it entertaining to watch baseball.
Yeah. Peaceful journey, Mr. Lopes. Peaceful journey. Last second shot. I have to do this one. I was talking to Drake yesterday about this, and I really have to really just reach out to the NBA and also college because I'm starting to seep into college. Bring back the traveling rule, no more than 2 steps. Please. I saw a play with Embiid who he hippity hopped and did maybe 4 or 5, 6 steps to get away from Wembley to throw up a 3-point shot. And no official had a whistle in their mouth to blow traveling. It's getting really ridiculous where I don't even want to watch the NBA. If you're going to let people play James Harden and the hop and the gather step, I don't care what you call it. You make 2 steps, it's traveling. And it's really seeping into March Madness because I saw a few of them travel calls. I'm like, ain't that a travel? And like I said earlier, the officiating in this tournament was the worst officiating I've seen in a tournament in a long time. You got to clean this up because all you're doing is creating monsters out there trying to come into the NBA and come into college ball, thinking that they can take 3, 4, 10 steps, and it's not traveling. Stop it, please. Go back to the original rule. More than 2 steps, it's a travel.
So when I saw, even though I could have done well, if you kind of won that game, I could have done real well, but I didn't, and it's okay. When I saw the University of Michigan win the national championship, I'm like, okay, cool, they won Big Ten, no problem. Then I thought about it again. And I remember the days when I watched Dusty May at Florida Atlantic, and I was watching one of their tournament championship games, and I said, damn, he got a big man over there that looked like he can go. He got some other people. And the way they played, it was like the style of play was like, oh man, that looked like fun. You get up and down the court, you run, you play defense, and it was kind of like free flowing. I was like, this dude seemed pretty good. So then at that point, I know Ohio State, they had let go Coach Holman mid-season and brought in Mr. Diebler as an interim coach to finish out the year. So, okay, cool, that's great. You almost got into the tournament, we cool. But then I started to say, okay, now Ohio State, we're looking for a coach. What are we doing? Then I said, oh, well, I know they're going to try to get something right. And I'm looking at this thing, and I said, okay. Then I found out, start realizing that Dusty May, they at least talked to him and it's down to Dusty May and Diebler. Okay, okay. You like Diebler because his dad from Ohio. You from Ohio, rich tradition of Ohio. But the question is, and I would never second guess what they do because they get paid that money. I'm just a casual observer, a fan, and also a media guy. I only say this: I've been watching a lot of basketball. Clark Kellogg and I probably would go hardcore on this because he probably tell me I'm crazy, but that's nothing new. All I'm gonna say to you is I think there's a difference between wanting to be really good or being great, have a chance to be great and be good and win championships, or just going through some loyalty things. And I think Diebler, they made their choice, cool, but I'm not sure if he's the right choice for me if you want to win championships. And who knows? All I'm gonna say is this: you had Dusty May opportunity, I think, to talk to him, which they did, and maybe hire him. And you can only go off, you can't read the future. But I saw Dusty May at Florida Atlantic, and I said, man, this is a guy that can really give you an opportunity. They decide to stay loyal in Ohio, good family, all that don't win you titles, baby. So they got Diebler. 6 days later, after they ended the talks, Michigan announced Dusty May as the damn coach. 2 years later, they hosted the trophy. Dusty May has a great style of play. He knows how to get transfers. He tightens up the roster. Hell, he even got one of the kids from Ohio State come and play for him. All I'm saying is, I am so tired. Everybody talking about we want to be great in basketball, but we won't hire the right people. So just let's do this, okay? I'm an alumnus from the Ohio State University. Let's just say, as long as basketball's good, we're cool. We're straight. You don't want to be great. Greatness is for football, right? That's where it matters. Greatness is football. Basketball, we just need to be okay. So, Diva, keep doing what you're doing, brother. I hope it works out or whatever, what have you. But I'm just saying to you, when I saw, and I'm not mad, Diebler is, I think he's going to be a phenomenal coach down the line. But I've been waiting a long time for titles and to be relevant again. We saw Michael Redd and Scooty Penn, those guys. We ain't won that man since Jerry Lucas back in the 60s, man, with Fred Taylor. And it breaks my heart, man, because I love basketball. But then I just had to understand we're just going to be mediocre. That's the way it seems because we're going to make the right hire. Kudos again to the University of Michigan and Dusty May. Damn it, Dusty, you know who you're supposed to be. That's all I'm going to say. Congratulations.
Right after the game, I could have did a countdown like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you text me and said, this should have been Ohio State. And I fell out laughing. That's our show, folks. We'll be back next week.